Today's notes are about the processes of life, or what we call the characteristics of living things. So what are some common characteristics that all living things share? As in, what do you share with your pets, or that bird in the tree, or that bug on the floor? There are 8 characteristics that organisms need to be considered living. They are maintaining homeostasis, reproduction, using and obtaining energy, adaptation, organization, cells, growth and development, and response. In order for a thing to be considered living, it must have all 8 of these characteristics. Viruses do not have all 8 of these living things, so they cannot be considered a living thing. The first one we're going to talk about is maintaining homeostasis, or does your body keep things under control internally, or does your body keep things in a balance inside your body? The definition is the ability to maintain a stable internal environment. And you do this every day. When you're sweating, that's your body cooling itself down in order to reach what we call the optimum or ideal body temperature. Your body can also shiver when it's cold in order to heat up your body temperature. The next one is reproduction, and that's the ability to produce offspring. There are 2 ways that organisms can reproduce. The first is asexual reproduction, and this is when one parent makes an exact copy of themselves, an identical copy. An example of an organism that does this is bacteria. The second is sexual reproduction, when 2 parents each contribute genetic information to create an offspring. So your parents creating you. The next characteristic is using and obtaining energy. Are you digesting, writing, chewing gum, blinking? All of those things require energy. And what we do is we eat that energy, we obtain it, and we digest it into a usable form so that we can do things like walk around, talk to our friends, text on our cell phones. So the definition is obtain food and convert it into useful energy that allows the organism to function. The next characteristic is adaptation. How are you surviving your first week of school? Are you making any changes? Yes. There are some physical aspects that humans have that not all organisms have. For example, the opposable thumb. Our thumbs allow us to grasp and hold on to things that we can pick up, but not all organisms have it. We adapted to our environment in order to help us survive. Giraffes, for example, have long necks. So the definition for adaptation is a trait that makes a living organism better able to survive. The next one is organization. Are you organized? And I'm not talking about your backpack or your room, luckily, but are you physically put together both inside and out in an organized way? You are. The example here is their digestive system. In your digestive system, you're going to take in, break down, and absorb food. Digestive system starts with your mouth. It's going to start there with all humans. You're going to start digesting in your mouth by breaking down food. It will travel to your stomach where it will continue to break down food with other chemicals, and then into your intestine where it will continue to digest as well as absorb these nutrients. The definition for organization is having an ordered structure that allows organisms to function. The next big common characteristic is cells. Our bodies are made up of trillions of cells, and can you name any of these cells that are made up in your body? We have tons of cells. We have blood cells, muscle cells, neuron cells, bone cells. Okay. The definition are microscopic units that make up living organisms and carry out functions needed for survival. The cells are also the most basic part of organization, the smallest. The next characteristic is growth and development. I think everyone in this room would agree that you look different from the day you were born. We've grown up a little bit. Our arms have gotten longer, our heads have gotten bigger. Well, growth and development do not actually mean the same thing. Growth is increasing the number of cells within an organism. So you started out really small, tiny baby, and you kept reproducing more and more cells and becoming bigger and bigger. Development is the addition of characteristics in an organism as they move through their life cycle. These are going to be things as growing facial hair when you get older, or growing armpit hair, or getting a deeper voice. The last characteristic of living things is response. You should try this. When your lab partner least expects it, yell boo, which is a stimulus, and see if they jump or scream, the response. So a response is the reaction to an event in the environment. Everyone can do this. If you're at a traffic light and it turns yellow, what are you going to do? Hopefully slow down and stop. It does not mean go. So that finishes up our first set of notes. But what I'd like you to do is to think and summarize. At the end of every notes, you're going to have a section about this summary, and your goal is to summarize what you think the lecturer's point is in your own words, in complete sentences. So for example, for this lecture, how do you determine if something is living? If I were to show you an object, you would tell me whether that was living or not. Is the cell phone living or not? However, my question is, how do you know if this is living or not? So I'd like you to go ahead and summarize what you think the point of this lecture was. Following that, I'd like you to write down any questions you might have about this lecture. Maybe you're a little fuzzy about one topic, or maybe you have a follow-up question to something we talked about. Anything will do. But what I expect is, at the end of this lecture, you will have the entire notes packet filled out with a summary and a question at the end for full credit.